Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. If you're tuning in for the first time, we are a Boston-based full-service station with all the bells and whistles with internet. You can listen wherever you are in the world, a number of ways, including Alexa. And we are proud to be the media partner for the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. And there are 3 opportunities for everyone that's listening to take advantage at the Omega Institute because of our partnership. So it's really neat. This is a live show, and anyone that would like to call in, Bob is in the house, and the toll-free number is 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200, and I have an exceptional guest that you'll want to call in and talk with her. Our topic is her book, and it's The Chiron Effect, a guide to healing using astrology to identify your core wounds, and my guest is the lovely Lisa Tahir. And so we're going to be talking about her book, and I have a number of questions for her. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Lisa.
Deborah, thank you so much for having me. It is my honor and delight to be with you and our audience.
Yeah, thank you, and it's a delight to have you as well. And I have to say, when I look at your picture, I just I can feel the love in your eyes, and you are just a stunning specimen. You are just stunning.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that.
Yeah, so let's start off with, I always love to ask because I know as a young teenager you were on your own, and that started your journey of finding value and worthiness and all of that. How long did it, tell us a little bit about your inward journey and how you came about to find the Chiron Effect.
You know, I'd love to start there because I grew up in an environment in my family where love wasn't freely given. It was, in hindsight, I look back and I felt a lot of performance-based love and meaning. For those of you listening that have experienced where you feel like you have to kind of earn love, and that was partially because one of my parents struggled with an addiction, and I didn't really know at the time, and so I tried to find different ways to connect with my mom, for her to shine her love and attention upon me. Taker just loving on you, and when she turned her love away, it was confused and thought it had to do with me and my value and worth, kind of transparently. It's one of the things adults can really struggle with, Deborah, and even adolescents. Feel somehow you're inadequate, and it can set in motion these patterns with where I turned addiction to medicate my own depression and feelings of hopelessness and really dark places within my life. Going to therapy could be helpful. I had a friend that started therapy, and she encouraged me, and that was really eye-opening. Having the love and mentorship and guidance of a therapist who really could help me start to unravel some of who I believed myself to be, And, it still took me a number of years to become a therapist as a result, because I was helping people find their way. And, hopefully they can avoid some of the experiences that I went through, especially around addiction and relationships where I wasn't valued because I didn't know how to value myself and set some healthy limits and boundaries, and even kind of take a stance for how I want to be treated, which is lovingly and kind and generously, and sometimes and people around us if, it wasn't the norm. So, fast forward to in my 40s where I had been a therapist about 20 years, and I still felt like there was this little aspect of myself where I still didn't quite feel as happy as I thought I should or I wanted to be, and that's when I turned to meditation. And I really found just this deep transformation through meditation, guided meditations at first on YouTube, and then learning to set a time to sit in silence, just hear with the universe to me about myself and about life, just from my own heart, and tapping into love by intuition. Just that love, it really does come through our intuition, through our senses, when we take the time to be still. When I started to receive the inklings to research Chiron.
Yes. One of the things that I loved that you pointed out was you wanted love within to be greater than the hurt.
Yeah.
Could you, seems like you're weaving in and out, Lisa.
Okay.
Could you go to another spot or something? Because you're very clear and then you weave out.
Okay. I apologize. Is this any better?
Yes, it sounds better. So,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So at what point did you actually feel that? Were you still quite young, or was it when you were in your 40s that, that you started doing all this inner work, and then you became, a clinical social worker? You're certified in a couple of modalities, Reiki and EMDR. So, I mean, you've really, you've grown through your inner work.
I have. And I started therapy in my 20s, and I was in therapy continually for about 20 years while I was also a therapist, going through training and, working for an agency and then my private practice. I've always been a lover of just transformation and personal growth. That's always been important to me personally and professionally, to help others walk their path. Yet it was when I went out to Los Angeles in 2014 where I became introduced to other modalities, sound baths and sound healings, and sound frequency and crystal healing and Reiki practitioners and meditation and all these, other types of healing practices that I had not experienced growing up in New Orleans. And I just really felt like, this really helps with the somatic aspects of trauma, and how to get in the body and release some of the emotions that feel like they kind of get stuck there, and yoga even as a practice, as a healing practice. And so I feel like I've always been the seeker of truth and of knowledge, and for myself, and then to offer it to clients, because I know whatever's worked for me might work with the people that I'm in charge of working with. So I'd always be really open in sharing these practices, and then becoming certified in EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing. I'm a Reiki level 2 practitioner, and just really wanting to offer everything that I could to the people that I work with.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
So let's get into psychoastrology, and one of your things is using astrology as a diagnostic tool. And so tell us how Chiron and the psychoastrology all comes together.
I will. It was quite a revelation for me, Deborah, because being schooled as a therapist, really comfortable in the wheelhouse of psychology and our interpersonal patterns, astrology has kind of been around my life, and I understand it to be a symbolic language, a snapshot of the sky when you were born, and somehow I felt led to look at Chiron. I literally heard the word Chiron, Chiron, while meditating. And I started to really research. And I learned that this is such a powerful tool offered by astrology, because where Chiron is in your birth chart, Chiron will be in one of the astrological signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Scorpio, just like your sun sign. Chiron is in one of those signs, and it helps for you to know what is the area of your life, of your personality, be it your professional life, in your marriage, in your relationship, with your money, in your moral value system. Where is it? And I see this on a continuum. On one side is woundedness. For instance, when you've experienced sexual abuse and trauma, there are wounds that are left within you. And on the other side of the spectrum, this would be areas of vulnerability, like self-esteem issues that maybe no one else sees but you. And it's really important to know where Chiron is, because that's where you can focus your efforts to really support yourself. What do I need to learn and strengthen within me so I don't feel ashamed or embarrassed that though I have professional success on paper, I look super successful, I may even make a lot of money, but inside of myself, I feel like I'm never good enough. And it's like you're constantly performing and you're really secretly exhausted, but you have to keep up this front or else you feel like you're a failure. And I think we see a lot of that in the U.S. in particular, with all the success looks a certain way, and yet we don't value our health or our downtime as much. So I started to see how this can really be helpful for people to understand, so you can, really focus your efforts in one particular area where Chiron is. And I don't know if you'd like an example or what comes to your mind as I say that.
Sure.
So, for instance, my Chiron is in the sign of Aries. Now, my sun sign, I'm a Gemini. If you'd ask me what's your sign, Lisa, I'd say I'm a Gemini. But Chiron is in the sign of Aries. In my first astrological house of self-esteem, of my body image, of how I view myself. So it's something private. This is like an inward issue. And Chiron in Aries speaks to a wounding and vulnerability in your personal sense of value and worth. So I've been one of those people that there's been a lot of outward success. I'm very achievement-oriented. That's how I felt like I was valuable and worthy and good enough. And yet inwardly, I'm that person that felt really tired and like, oh my gosh, what else do I have to do to feel like I'm good enough? And when I learned about Chiron, I could release. I don't have to do another thing to be good enough, to be valuable, to be worthy. It's about, how do I need to play some more? How do I let myself have more fun and enjoyment and go easy? Because for some people, Chiron's going to reveal that you need to do a lot less of, say, work and things that, aren't super fun for you, and you need to find your joy. You need to find your pleasure. You need to find your creativity. You need to take more trips, go to the park, socialize with friends, and that was for me the key, versus other people might need to kind of tighten up in those areas and maybe be a bit more accountable in their daily routines to be able to, really serve themselves and their happiness. And so for me, I was able to let go of all of this performance-based activity to find my value and worth, and I've become so much happier as a result, to just walk in the park and literally smell flowers. I just did that before our show. I would never let myself do that before I wrote this book. And the success still comes. I'm just not having to exhaust myself for it. So it can be really liberating for you to understand where Chiron is in your birth chart.
Right, and that with reading it, it validates when we've done some inner work as we go along and journey through life. With reading some of the signs, or should I say, astrological signs, that you can see yourself, as you mentioned, in almost all of them. But there's also a validation, like, oh yeah, that all makes sense, and that is me, type of thing. So I love how you explain in the book about each sign and how Chiron fits in. So the whole thing about life with finding peace within is all about these, because so many people, so many of us practitioners are talking about the core wounds, getting to the root of everything. And as we know, to take it to the medical, in the mainstream medicine, it's all about, fixing something or putting a Band-Aid on it or giving a med versus finding out what is the core issue of why this person has these issues, whether it's physical, medical, or whatever. And while I'm talking about that, do you see, we've been working on this for how many decades, but do you see as of recent that there's a balance to that, where they're balancing mainstream medicine with alternative remedies and modalities, and it's not so woo-woo anymore?
Well, I like the balance between modalities because, on one hand, it's important to treat symptoms so that people can go to work and function and be able to raise their kids and engage in meaningful work and have, a quality level of life. Yet if you only treat symptoms, you're never really going to be happy. You're just kind of remediating what's showing outwardly versus, as you were saying, getting to the root cause of things, which always starts in our mind and our thoughts, and our body manifests the results of our thoughts and our beliefs and our emotions that haven't been processed, that haven't been addressed. And for instance, Chiron in the sign of Cancer speaks to a core wounding by abandonment. And that's one of those deeper wounds where a caretaker might have literally abandoned you as a child, walked out and left you. And that can leave these deep wounds where you don't feel important. You don't feel valuable. Like, a wrong belief that one may develop as a child is that I'm not even worth staying for. And that in itself can cause serious physical conditions to not have treated the root cause of that wound, which would be abandonment. And so as deep as you can go to start to effectively heal what caused the symptoms you're having in your life, the healthier and faster absolutely you're going to be, the stronger you're going to be, and you're going to find meaning and value in your life, unlike anything else that you've known. So I think it is by combining modalities, medicine absolutely as it's needed and necessary, but there's also other techniques that can help you and to understand the psychological underpinnings of why you're having the emotions you're having can be helpful as well. The therapy piece of things. So yeah, absolutely. Treating on as many different levels as you can is the best.
Yes. Yeah, and you're big on learning to offer ourselves empathy and forgiveness. Those are very key to your own journey and that you see for everyone, correct?
Absolutely, because I think we're often taught, Deborah, that forgiveness is for others. We need to forgive, everyone that's done anything to us, and while that there's value in that, and yes, of course, but how do you even get there? And it starts by learning to have empathy for yourself, to forgive yourself when you didn't show up, or when you said something that you wish you hadn't, or when you treated someone in a way that you would never do today. Instead of judging and blaming and shaming yourself, to really free yourself with empathy, understanding why you did and said those things, and then forgiving yourself, knowing life will give you many more opportunities to show up again, and you're going to do it differently. And it's through that perspective you can actually forgive someone else, because you start to see where they're coming from. And it might be an amends you make to them, you call them, you ask to see them, or it can be if that person's out of your life or it's not healthy to reach out to them. You can do that through meditation, sending them love in a meditative state. And since we're all energy, that is received by the other person, and it helps you free yourself from the judgments.
Exactly. Well, we're coming up on a break, and I want to share your information. Again, the book is called The Chiron Effect, Healing Our Core Wounds Through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness. And you can go on Lisa's site. It's NOLA, N-O-L-A, nolatherapy.com, just as it sounds, nolatherapy.com. And when we come back, remember that you can call in. Bob's there, can put you through 833-220-1200. We will be back in a little minute with more with Lisa Tahir.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Take an unforgettable journey of self-development to achieve new levels of alignment, healing, and life purpose with award-winning author and channel Paul Selig. Led by Paul and his guides, make way for personal growth and overcome obstacles hindering you along the way. Mention discount code DREAM for 20% off when you register for The Upper Room, a 5-day channeled retreat at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, June 19th to the 24th. Learn more at eomega.org.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and you're listening to the Love by Intuition show. And I just want to put forth to go on our site. We now offer audiobook production and we have another special going on in hosting. So go on Dream Visions, all one word with an S-I-N, the number 7, radio.com, and you can check that out. And you can also check out the 3 workshops. You can take 20% off from the Omega Institute. We are with Lisa Tahir, and she is very much what we talked earlier. She has a couple of modalities under her experience. She's an author of this wonderful, beautiful book. She's a clinical social worker, and she is a thought coach through the Institute of Transformational Thinking. And she has her own weekly podcast, All Things Therapy, on LA Talk Radio since 2016, so you can check her out over there. Lisa, towards the end of your book, it's actually page 187, and I don't know if you can put your hands on that quickly, but
yeah, let me go grab it. Yeah,
you wrote in your journal a prayer and declaration to the universe for all those that are soul suffering, and I think this would be a beautiful time for you to read that.
Oh, I'd love to, Deborah. And It was kind of a vision that I had of when things start to shift in your life, because I know in moments when I had gone through challenges and felt depression, life is gray. Like, it's the sun shining, you can see it with your eyes, but you're not feeling it in your body. And It was like, oh my gosh, like any of you listening can relate to that. It's like you're looking through the window pane of your life. Like there's a separation. Like, you see the sun, you see happy people, but you're not connected to that part of yourself. And I know how painful and how, disjointed that can feel, because I've been there myself. And as I really started to get a handle over, just how we can value ourselves more deeply and take this stance and positioning within, and using tools like meditation to align our thoughts and beliefs with infinite intelligence, with divine love, with unconditional love, most specifically, and then start to feel that peace where things shift, that division between us and life just melts away. So that's where this came from. And so what I wrote was a journal entry. Were you going to say something, Deborah?
No, I was just saying that it's so good. I love for everyone to hear it. I want them to get the book, of course, as well.
Thank you. Yes, so I wrote this on behalf of those who are still suffering, that they may find peace, because it does get better when the sun rises in your own heart. The grass will appear green again. Flowers will bloom in color, and you'll feel the blue sky on your skin. You will notice the wind at your back not blowing sharply in your face anymore. The gray tone that once washed over your life gives way to color, sound, taste, smell, and texture. The ashes you rise from become fertile soil in which you lovingly plant the truth of who you now are. You become the most beautiful garden, blooming authentically. This is yours to create. May it be so. Amen.
Beautiful. I think that is something. I know that you're big on affirmations as well, but to read this and the words, it's timeless, because you can, at any time during your inward journey, you can read this and find solace and inspiration. So I thank you for writing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So let's talk about the chakras, because most people know what the chakras are, but I don't recall the stages of grief where you talk about each one and how grief is weaved into that particular chakra. And as we know, as you've said, and we know especially now, there's so much sadness and just a lot of sorrow. And then there's the rejection and all the different things that come where we feel we're not worthy enough or we don't hold value. So is it more is it unique for the chakras to be interwoven with the stages of grief?
Well, that's something that I came up with when I interviewed on my podcast David Kessler, who worked with Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, when she, years ago, developed the stages of death and dying that then her and David Kessler, correlated to the stages of grief. And when I was having time with David and reading their material, and later reflecting on my own book, I started to, again, kind of see through meditation this correlation between our chakra system. And David Kessler has a new book out, putting out a 6th stage of grief called Finding Meaning. And that, it just kind of got me thinking. And I actually received written permission from David Kessler and the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation to be able to publish this in my book. And the chakras, as you may know, are these energy systems that begin at the base. And
we're losing you. Come closer.
Oh. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm in the same. Okay, thank you. So
you're welcome.
The chakra system, it's an energy system, and there's over 100 chakras, but we're most familiar with 7. And so I just started to see how at the base, just, again, my correlation that when grief happens, when loss happens, when there's something that happens that rocks our world, at first there's usually this denial of it happening, like I can't believe it. And for me, 2 weeks ago, I lost my cat of 17 years. He unexpectedly had to be sent over the Rainbow Bridge, and it was devastating. And I was just kind of in this denial. And that I correlate with the root chakra, like at the root of something, at the root of a major change in your life, there's like a denial that this is happening. And it's a necessary stage to start to wrap our head around what has happened to change the landscape of our life. And then afterwards, in these stages of grief, they're not linear, so you can feel them in any order as many times as you need to. But when I thought of our sacral chakra, which is the seat of sexuality and, a lot of personal power in that way, a lot of like visceral, raw emotion, I thought how that really resonates with the anger stage of grief, where we might feel angry, like, why did this happen? Like, why did this have to happen in the way that it did or at all? And, so then moving up our chakra system, our solar plexus, where the solar plexus is the seat of our power, the seat of our confidence, and it's where we start to bargain. Like I know when my cat transitioned, it's like, oh my gosh, should I have had this ultrasound done sooner? Bargaining, like if I would have done this, would something else have happened? And in the case of a death, even if I would have done this, might they still be here? And so that solar plexus and our abdomen really just battling with, again, trying to make sense of something that's causing us grief. And then moving up the body into our heart chakra, which is just the seat of emotion. And I saw that as resonating. I see that as resonating with the depression stage of grief, where we just let ourselves feel the sadness of whatever this loss is. Just let the tears flow. I found there was a Dr. Fry in the 80s who discovered that there are 3 stress hormones that are only released through emotional tears. So when you feel like you need to cry, let yourself. It's actually releasing this chemical that needs to leave your body, and that might give some of you some more permission to let yourself cry. And as we move through grief, through loss, the next chakra will be our throat chakra, which has to do with speaking our truth, our verbal expression. And I saw that chakra correlating with the acceptance stage of grief, where we start to find some peace. It's like, okay, this change has happened. It cannot be undone. So how do I start to find some peace with what has transpired within my own life, within my own body? And you start to believe that you're going to make it through this change. And then the third eye chakra, moving up the chakra system, is what resonates with David Kessler's new stage that he's articulated of grief, finding meaning. This chakra is located between our eyebrows. It's associated with our intuition, our foresight, our perception, and our third eye chakra resonates with finding meaning for ourselves because of this change in grief. And I even put out this isn't in the official material around grief and loss, but I suspected that, the crown chakra correlating with the afterlife and, higher states of consciousness. We've always been fascinated with, always wanting to know what happens after our physical life. I think every civilization and culture speculates about that. So I just put out there, what lies beyond our physical death, really resonating with our crown chakra and the stage of life after this one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. I really like the way I had not read how they correlate before up until your book, at least from my memory serves me. So I like that, because in the world we're living in, and there's so much trauma, and yet, as you know and I know, there can be trauma as small as being late for your mortgage, for lack of another thought. And yet that can hold, quite a bit of trauma and worry and such. So it's everyday stuff that we're living with. Or how about the people that are being priced out of renting an apartment? There's so many crises right now, and so I like the way you bring it to each one, and it makes sense, and it feels right.
Thank you. I'm the first person to do that, to combine them as well as articulating and trademarking psychoastrology, which is simply the intersection between our personal psychology and our natal astrology. And for me, that's about Chiron, since, I use astrology, as you mentioned, as the diagnostic point to let's see, what is within us to really support, heal even if necessary, and strengthen. And then it's through taking personal responsibility and using some sound psychology that I believe we're able to make those changes and shift our thoughts that then cause us to believe new things. And then we start to experience different life experiences in our 3D reality that we most deeply desire.
Right. And the more that we focus on those types of things to replace, like we talk about opening up a new pathway so that you can let the stuff that isn't serving you go and visualize yourself walking down a new pathway, feeling everything that's pure and joyful and loving. And the more you do that, the more your body responds and the more you believe it as real,
Absolutely.
As a real thing happening in your daily life. It's all, and as we know, it's all about choice. Like you said in the book, back you were at a point where you wanted to elevate love instead of elevating the hurt. And do you think, I've experienced the same thing where you get to a point and you're just like, all right, I'm done with this, victim mindset, or how, whatever you want to put a label on that. And then you start moving forward and really diving in to find out who you really are. And which brings me to one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what do you feel? What's your perspective on when each individual work on this inner healing and getting to the core wounds and replacing them with, the reality of the positiveness that's the authentic piece of who we all are? Do you think that changes the world? Yes, it absolutely changes the world. When we change, I'm stumbling over my words. When we change ourselves, we change our patterns that affects those in our immediate sphere of influence that has a ripple effect out into the world. And, even a moment ago, hearing the term victim mindset, I've always just kind of struggled with that term because I feel like it puts blame on people who are already forward. Yes. When people experience traumas, you are
victimized, for lack of a better term, and it causes you to have low self-esteem and not value yourself and engage in patterns that are self-harming, and you don't do well in school because your brain can't focus on studying because of the trauma that happens when you are going to get home that night. So you can't be present to absorb knowledge, for example, for children and young people in school. And so I think it's about, that's where, again, the empathy, and self-forgiveness comes in. You only heal through being empathized to someone, to understand, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry, that was your experience. What skills do you need to learn now to love yourself more deeply, to say no to certain things and yes to other things? And it's through that path of like coaching yourself versus punitive, statements and punishments, really encouraging yourself down the path that you start to feel powerful, that you start to come to know your own power and your choices that you can start to make that you might not have ever made because you're actually feeling better about yourself. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that because it's a lot in our culture, like, victim, perpetrator, that kind of dichotomy. And I think there's more going on there than those words,
Right,
demonstrate.
I like that. Yes, I like that. Well, we're up for a break, and everyone, there's still time to call in and talk with Lisa. It's 833-220-1200. Don't be shy. We'll be back in a moment. And again, go to her site, NOLA, N-O-L-A, therapy.com, nolatherapy.com. We'll be back.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation Retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. Sit and read in the garden, explore the woodland trails, or try a daily yoga or meditation class. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 800-944-1001.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and the book that I want everyone to, you can find it wherever you go, wherever you shop for your books, The Chiron Effect, A Guide to Healing Using Astrology to Identify Your Core Wounds, and author is Lisa Tahir. And Lisa, I wanted to, at the back of the book, you talk about Chiron in the birth chart of the USA. And so much has happened since you wrote that last chapter. It was, I think it was early in the pandemic. And so how does Chiron affect not only the USA, but everything that's going on? How does it affect today, a couple of years later?
Sure. Well, what's really cool is not only can you enter your birth information, your date of birth, your time of birth, if you have it, and place of birth, to generate where Chiron is in your personal chart to learn how this material works and serves you. You can also put the date of your business, the date of your LLC incorporation, the date you got married, for instance, or your first date with the person you're seeing, because there's a Chiron placement to businesses, to relationships, to countries, to cities, and that's what's so exciting is that you can learn, where might be the area of vulnerability in your business. Or, in that last chapter, the addendum chapter in the United States. And when I sent this to my publisher, I had said, it's showing that there's going to be a change in power, that there's going to be a female president or vice president. And the publisher didn't want to put that there because they're like, okay, it's predictive.
Oh, really?
What if you're, what if you're wrong? And then it's published in this book. And I said, well, of course, do whatever needs to be done. But I felt, the information was showing so strongly that there's going to be a shift, that the U.S. is ready for a change and for a female in top leadership, which is what happened. And so I encourage you to put the date of, again, like I did this, Deborah, for my LLC, Lisa Tahir LLC, and it generated Chiron in the sign of Libra, which has to do with contracts, both professional contracts and marriage contracts. And in the very moment I looked up that the area of vulnerability in my business is in contracts, I was in the middle of a battle trying to get out of a professional contract that I never should have signed because I didn't read it well enough. So that was like a light bulb, for me to really read contracts. If you don't understand them, ask questions. So for all of you listening, it can be important to put in those other important dates in your life to see where Chiron is and how you might want to, really buffer and serve yourself the most. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And so how, as far as where do you see Chiron actually, how does it, and it's let's just say it's a little, it's a little, Chiron is a little entity, isn't it? Not entity, but I'm not articulating well right now, so tell us, what is Chiron for those that may not know?
So Chiron is several things. Chiron in astronomy is a minor planet and comet. It has both designations in astronomy, and it's in between Saturn and Uranus in the solar system. Chiron is also in Greek mythology the founding father of the healing arts. And when you go to the doctor, you see the staff of medicine, the staff with the two snakes intertwined. Everyone knows that relates to the symbol of medicine. Well, that staff was actually given by Chiron, the Greek centaur and founding father of the healing arts, to Asclepius. And we also see Chiron. Carl Jung speaks about Chiron as the wounded healer archetype in his material that he wrote. And Carl Jung also spoke about when you find the core wounding in a people, in a civilization, that also illuminates the path to their healing and their enlightenment. And so this isn't new, what I have written about. It's been with us in many traditions. I just put the spin on it, how you can really use it in your personal life to change your emotional patterns, your financial patterns, your partner selection patterns, how you can really use it in your life. Because the last way we see Chiron is in astrology. Just like you have your sun sign, your moon, your rising, there's Chiron in your astrological birth chart. And that's where my book takes it. So you can personally connect with this technology. I see Chiron as a technology to change patterns so you can be happier. My whole point in writing this book is so that you can really be happier in your life and free from the thoughts and beliefs that have held you back from that happiness.
Yes. Thank you so much for explaining that, and beautifully done.
You're welcome.
So getting back to the world issues that we are facing, like with Ukraine and the greed and the power that is escalating really across the universe with the human, and some will say, well, why can't that stop? Why can't God do this or God do that? But it's really the human that is making the choices, and then we live by those choices. So how does Chiron fit into the present events that are happening?
I'm not sure astrologically, since I come to this as a professional in psychology and psychotherapy, but I do know that when we have more compassion within ourselves, that Chiron invites us to be that compassionate responder instead of the hot-headed reactor to the people and experiences in your own life, that changes things, as well as leadership, to be, if you're a person in leadership, to also bring your compassion, bring your empathy, bring, that part of yourself that's able to see multiple sides of things so that you're addressing the issues in kind ways. His Holiness the Dalai Lama speaks about this in all of his lectures that he gives regularly that you can watch through Facebook. And he endorsed my book as well. And in the beautiful letter he sent me, he said, Lisa, yes, these principles about healing through compassion and self-forgiveness, this is the key to healing the wars and conflicts and things that we see in our world. And it starts with you listening to really, how do I become more compassionate in our own life and not putting it off, on Putin and Russia and others. Certainly they're accountable for their actions. We're accountable for ours as well. So start with you. I'm really about kind of the micro universe, starting with ourselves.
Right, which goes back to what we were saying earlier, is if we all do the inner work ourselves, get rid of the blame, shame, and the unworthiness and everything else that we attend to, and the forgiveness, self-forgiveness and all, then we actually raise the collective consciousness to another level. It's just that right now we need to raise it so many levels, and unfortunately people are perishing for no reason, and yet it's part of the human evolution.
And it's going to happen as we raise healthier children, more compassionate children that feel that love and acceptance, that they'll be able to change policies and make different decisions than some of the ones we're seeing. So it's like the long journey in our culture, civilization, and world changing.
Right. Right. And it's taken years. I mean, it's taken decades, but we are going, I feel as though we'll all come together in a unified form one day, and still all have our uniqueness, still have our own perspectives and thought process, but we can live together in unity. So
yeah, we can even build up. Yeah, we can support causes. We can send money to help refugees in Ukraine. So use all of everything important to you, to serve and help causes of meaning and value to end suffering and promote peace. We can all do that.
Yes, yes. Well, we have just a couple minutes left. What would you like to leave the listeners with other than all your wisdom shared?
Oh, that's thoughtful, Deborah. I just would love, our listening audience, if anyone wants to work with me and do a session remotely by Zoom or FaceTime or phone to understand more about your personal Chiron, I'd love to offer your listeners 50% off a first session, and they can just mention you, Deborah, and your show, and, let me know. I'd love to offer half off to just, help anyone who's really curious and needing to change some patterns in their life that I wanna be about serving in that way.
Beautiful. And so they can just go on your site and connect with you that way, correct?
Yeah, you can book a session on my site and then just send me an email about hearing this show, Deborah, with you, and when it comes time to payment, I'll just credit the 50%.
Very good. And what's that percentage again? Because you weaved out a little.
Oh, 50, half off. Half off.
Oh, wow.
Half off a session or half off a monthly intensive. And the sessions are $190 regular, so half off $190, and the monthly intensive is $2,500, so half off to $2,500.
Wow, that's very generous of you, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that with the listeners.
You're welcome. It's important. That's part of being compassionate. It's generosity.
Yes,
it's a value.
it isn't. Isn't that true? Yeah,
it comes back. It comes back.
Yes, it's walking that pathway, from your true self, and then living from that place and everything that we do, including business. So thank you so very much for joining us. It's been a delight, a pleasure, an honor, and thank you for all the work you have done, not only on yourself, but all the hundreds of people that you have awakened so that they're all part of lifting and raising the collective consciousness.
Thank you so much, Deborah. My honor and pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And for everyone out there, pass the show around. Let everyone know that Lisa is offering that 50% off on the 2 different areas. You can go on her site, nolatherapy.com, and listen again, because as we know, just like with reading, when you listen again, you may pick something else up that embellishes and really supports your journey and your family's journey, because as we know, we're all interconnected. All right, until the next time that we come together in love, au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.